Most people think empires fall when they get weak. They are wrong. Empires fall when they get too expensive. That is when the system changes. It no longer expands to become stronger. It expands into something heavier, slower, and harder to sustain. That is how decline begins. Not when power disappears, but when the cost of holding power together starts rising faster than the system can carry. At its height, Rome did not just face enemies, it faced a deeper problem. The empire had become enormously expensive to maintain, not only to grow, not only to conquer, but simply to keep standing. That is not pure strength. That is a system starting to consume itself. And here is the paradox most people miss. The bigger the power, the faster the bill grows. There are more borders to defend, more soldiers to fund, more roads to maintain, more officials to pay, more trade routes to protect, and more crises to absorb. From the outside, power looks impressive. A larger army, a wider network, more influence, more territory, more control. But underneath all of that, something else is expanding. The bill. That is the hidden cost most empires fail to see in time. At first, success hides it. Expansion feels like momentum. Growth feels like proof. Prestige makes the structure look healthy. Everything still appears stable. Everything still appears permanent. That is why the danger is so easy to miss. Large systems often become fragile long before they look weak, because the real threat is not the loss of power, it is the rising cost of maintaining it. Rome learned this too late. As the empire expanded, it needed more administration, more logistics, more military presence, more taxation, and more money just to keep the machine running. What looked like strength was also becoming overhead. Britain faced the same trap in a different form. A global empire gave it reach, status, and control over trade. But global reach is never free. Naval dominance cost money. Colonial control cost money. Financial credibility cost money. Military readiness cost money. And once a great power reaches that stage, its growth stops creating flexibility. It starts creating obligation. That is the turning point. The structure becomes harder to carry. And when that happens, the center starts making different choices. Not because leaders suddenly become foolish, because pressure changes the logic of the system. When the bill rises faster than resilience, governments start squeezing the structure from the inside. They raise taxes, lean harder on debt, extract more from the economy, distort the money, and pressure the productive core. These moves can delay the fracture, but they cannot remove the burden. Sooner or later, the hidden cost becomes visible. Confidence weakens. The middle carries more. The system adapts less. The state demands more while delivering less stability. That is when power becomes deceptive. It still looks large. It still looks important. It still looks permanent. But underneath, the structure is becoming more expensive, more rigid, and more fragile every year. This is how strong systems begin to decay, not in one dramatic collapse, but in the slow conversion of power into maintenance, of prestige into overhead, and of strength into obligation. That is the pattern. The final stage is not weakness, it is unaffordable strength. And once a system reaches that point, its size no longer protects it. Its size becomes the burden.